Hello everyone, this is Derek from Dakarama. I'm bringing you guys the 8th episode of my Epic Battle Fantasy 4 Let's Play. This episode, I have to admit something. I lied. I was planning to do the super boss of this area this episode. Turns out, he one-hits me, no problem. So instead, I'm gonna be doing a different optional area, the graveyard. Now, I've also gotten the polls in, as in the straw polls I posted during the live stream. Turns out you guys want me to use the somewhat standard team, really, of Anna, Natalie, and Matt. Which, honestly, I'm used to using those guys together, so that's good. So the graveyard area is full of dark element enemies. As a result, Holy is your friend, and Fire is too. Whoa. Lance, stop staring at those high school girls over there. You're such a pedophile. Shh, don't start any incriminating rumors about me. People could actually believe that. Yeah. It's obvious why Lance actually won the straw poll. Something tells me this area is completely optional. What a silly thing to say. If it has foes and treasures, then it's not optional. So yes, this area is actually completely optional, unlike what Matt said. So I decided to actually speed up most of these fights. Since they're all optional, I sped all of them up, except the last couple. And I also sped up this part. I ended up preparing my inventory for around 9 minutes. Yeah, I had a couple issues. So, these fights are honestly pretty simple. You're mainly gonna be using fire and holy attacks. Now, near the end of this episode I get a holy attack for Natalie. Judgement. It is probably the most devastating attack in the game. You'll notice why. Now, the new sword I got from Matt is called the Blood Sword. This sword heals you depending on the amount of damage you deal, which is always very useful. So once you start hitting people, things for around 10k damage, yeah, you're gonna be healing a lot of health. But the main point of this weapon is its status effect. Tired. I already went over this. I will go over it again. Using the Unleash not status effect, wow. Using the Unleash ability, you will have a really good chance of actually hitting that status on enemies. And like I had already mentioned, the status really just kind of breaks every single boss in the game that couldn't be affected by it. Here lies Marcus Magic, who suffered a heart attack from drinking too many potions. Rip Meowcat, may you finally catch that little red light in heaven. Here lies Grand Old Ham, the Master Mage. Upon discovering the ultimate fire spell, he was promptly burned alive. I think this tree used to be a person who died a rather unpleasant death. It's a shame when this happens. This tree looks kind of sad. Its expression feels almost human. It's looking back at me. Let's carry on. These trees are freaking me out. Why won't they stop watching us? So yes, that's actually the lore of this area. Anyone who stays here too long turns into a tree. You might end up turning into trees ourselves if we stay around too long. I wish I could help them somehow, but I guess it's too late. This place could use some serious gardening work. Maybe that would be a bit happier then. I'm just gonna walk behind you where you can't see me. Rotten trees. Yeah, it's obvious that Lance is not the nice person on the team. Like I had already explained, he's basically a Nazi. Meow. Evils was here. It's written at the bottom. I already went over that one. The world is square. Here lies Louis McNugget, who drowned in a pool of healing. We told him not to go in there, but he wanted his coin back. Son Goku lies here, his body couldn't take it. The writing on the grave is too faded to read. Nipples. Here lies Link. So these enemies, they are the evil worms. They're a pain. They inflict a lot of status effects. Rarely they will even induce the one of the rarest status effects in the game actually, the maximum HP down debuff. Not even a status effect, so you can't take it away with every stat increasing. Well, you can only take it away with stat increasing items or dispel, not with purify, which is the ability I actually get later on, which allows me to basically heal off all status effects on my party members. Now, the reason these things are such a pain in the ass. First of all, the status effect I just mentioned. 2, they do a lot of damage. I actually only survived at 1 HP right there. Besides that, they also inflict status effects like Doom, Curse, pretty sure even stuff like Weaken. They deal bomb damage, poison damage. They are pretty strong, not unbeatable though. They do have weak points. Mainly the fact that they are weak to Holy, Burn, and Crown attacks. Pretty sure they are also weak to one more element, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But those are the main weaknesses you're going to be using anyway. I actually just now checked. They are weak to water as well. The enemies they can summon, called the Evil Tails, they also deal quite a lot of damage and can poison or stun you, but honestly they aren't that big of a deal, except the fact that they can respawn if you don't watch out. Besides this, you can just kind of obliterate them. As you saw right there, that was the weakened status effect. I had already mentioned what the curse status effect does. I'll go over both. I'll actually go over both the curse and weakened status effect real quick. Basically, what they do is weaken makes it so you take more damage from dark, and is added on by most holy attacks, while curse it makes you take more damage from holy and is inflicted by most dark element attacks. Curse decreases your defenses, both of your defenses, every single turn by 5%, while weaken does the same for your attack. As a result, if you're able to inflict both status effects, especially on bosses, yeah, they're not going to be able to stand much of a chance. Especially if you decide to also afflict the tired status effect. That way they will have next to no defense, next to no damage, and of course they will also have next to no accuracy. Meaning you don't get hit, and yeah, it's just kind of sad, really. Now, one of the ways you can deal with that most status effects in the game is either Purify or Dispel. Oh, no, not Dispel, Cleanse. Cleanse will also remove any debuffs you have already gotten, and status effects can all be removed by both Dispel and Cleanse. Now, I personally don't use Purify that often. Wow, I'm retarded. Basically, Purify is the one I was trying to say the entire time there. Purify is a team-wide status cleanse. Well, cleanse is a single target, but it will also remove any stat decreases you may have gotten at that point. So personally, I'm actually not that big of a fan of using these. I don't think a lot of the status effects in this game are really that hard to deal with. Of course, once you start getting to the enemies that actually inflict a lot of very powerful status effects, yeah, of course they're gonna be an issue. Now, right here, I give Natalie Big Blast. I'm pretty sure. Actually, never mind, I guess. Yeah, I gave her Judgement. Now, this skill, at level 1, it already has a base 140 power, with no downsides. As you're gonna be able to see in this fight right here, this is a pretty substantial amount of damage. Yeah, 3k damage. That's quite a lot. Now here's the issue with this. That did more than Matt's limit break right there. Now, what are the disadvantages to this? First of all, very few enemies are actually weak to holy damage. Only dark element enemies are weak against it. Does that mean you should not get it early on? Absolutely not. It actually grants you access to one of Natalie's limit breaks, being Genesis. Genesis is probably the most insane limit break in the game. Sure, it doesn't deal the most damage. Its main point actually isn't the damage in the first place. Its main point is its versatility. Similar to Kyun being able to just set up your entire team immediately, Genesis will Genesis will just give your entire team auto-revive, while also having a chance to weaken enemies. I already went over what weaken does. You can see how this is a pretty big deal. Sure, it doesn't heal your party up to full health like Kyun usually does, but just the fact that you have auto-revive and potentially weaken enemies and probably even kill them, because sure, it's not the most damaging of the abilities, but it's still really, really powerful. Besides that, I don't know really, there's not that much else to really explain about it. It's pretty simple. It gives you auto-revive, it deals a shed load of damage. Another limit break that I'm planning to give to Natalie is actually the Rapture limit break. This limit break deals damage depending on the... well, it deals elemental damage depending on your staff, which is actually an extremely rare occasion for Natalie. Besides her basic attack, the only other ability she has that does this is actually, I actually forgot the name, wow. Well, it's not that important anyway. It's a rather weak ability. Now, something that is of note, the ability I got right there. You saw me hover over it. You saw the base damage for it. 170 base damage at level 1. That's pretty ridiculous. Now, what's the drawback? It kills you. What can you do about this? Simple. You could give this to Natalie, use Genesis first, then have someone use Milk on Natalie, and use Sacrifice. If you're using a Dark Element weapon, this damage is going to get increased by 1.5. So you have a 170 base damage attack at level 1, mind you. That gets a 1.5 bonus from your weapon, if your enemy is weakened by Genesis, it will get another 1.5 times damage bonus. You can see how the damage is going to get pretty ridiculous. And note, if you have stat buffs while having auto revive and you die, you still get to keep all of your stat buffs. Meaning the next turn, if you have someone else with revive, you can revive Natalie, you can use revive on Natalie again, give her the auto revive status again, and then nuke something again. And you can just do this ad infinitum. Now, in these 2 treasure chests I'm currently getting, there are 2 pieces of equipment that give you that basically only give you a buff to your magical attack. This is arguably the best equipment for Natalie to have most of the time, just due to the sheer amount of damage output it gives her. However, it only protects you against dark element attacks, which in this area is very useful, but in the upcoming areas, not so much. Right there, I'm pretty sure that's actually the first time we ever see the Doom status effect. And that's also the first time we see the Doom status effect get removed. Basically, the Doom status effect is very similar to the instant kill status effect, except that you get a timer, so you actually get to plan ahead of time before you die, or just cure it outright. Of course, you can, again, use things like revive ahead of time as well, for auto revive and stuff, which does work most of the time. And we actually get to see some enemies we haven't seen in quite a while. These furry slimes, I think they were called. They really don't appear much throughout the game, only at the first couple minutes. We're actually nearing the end of the graveyard here. Pretty sure there's only one more fight that we can... Now, during this sorting out, I basically just level up a solid chunk of my equipment. There really isn't much to say here. It's just me leveling up all the equipment I can. You're gonna end up using most of the equipment in this game, honestly. Especially in the upcoming part. If you're not playing the DLC version, I suggest only leveling up your, your electric and bomb equipments. In here, speaking about bomb equipment, if you decide to complete this quest, you get a gun. Oh, wait. Rar, what's happening to me? Is this real life? Watch out, it's a feminist! I love that line. Here you get the Heavy Claw, a bomb element gun. It's actually incredibly powerful, but it decreases your evasion by quite a lot. And in here is the last enemy. And this fight is, well, normally it's pretty hard. Unless you have judgement. Yeah. Judgement just kind of makes every single fight against dark element enemies an absolute freaking joke. You could see that Judgement did not crit, well, Matt's Inferno, I think it was called, did crit. It still did twice the damage. Yeah, this is perfectly acceptable. And keep in mind, Natalie doesn't even have the best equipment out there yet. Her staff isn't boosting the power of Judgement at all. Her base stats are relatively low right now. She still needs to get all the stat increasing items, stat increasing armor. Yeah, it's gonna be quite devastating for literally everything in the game. Which is personally why I actually don't like using her the way most people do. Most people use her like a mixed support. Kind of like mages in other games. I prefer to just have her do a shitload of damage and have Anna be the support instead. She does have the more supportive moves after all. She does start out with things like reflex and I think it's called renew and stuff. Her signature healing spells. And besides that, she can still learn heal more and revive. So now you guys may notice something in a little bit. You've probably already noticed it, but above the graveyard, the grass is actually incredibly green. You wanna know why? Simple. We are back in Greenwood Village. Yes. The only way I'll get to that treasure chest is if I can walk over those leaves, but I have to have it for that. Yeah, not that interesting commentary. Now here's the issue I have with this game. One of the issues. I get that it's good that there's a lot of save points and stuff, and just quick travel points. But let's be fair here. 5 squares? Really? Is that not a little bit overkill? And then to the next checkpoint, around 5 squares again. It's... I feel like everything's a little bit too packed in terms of quick travel points, but I guess I'll survive. But with that being said, I will be ending the episode here. See you guys next time.